Now, I like cryptids. I think they're interesting. I think they do a good job at teaching us something about culture, whether it's a specific region, a country, or even just the internet. They tell us something about a culture, and they're also just interesting stories to hear about some mythical creature that may or may not exist. I mean, I don't believe in 99% of them, but if you do, that's totally fine. I would never, ever in my entire life and career make fun of anyone for believing a creature exists. I mean, why would I do that? I would never do that. There are two things that make this cryptid different than the others. One, the racist aspect. There is a pretty big racist aspect to this cryptid, but I'm going to talk about that in a later section. The other thing is that this is a real image. No Photoshop, no costumes, no props, no alterations at all. This is a real image of a real animal. Whether or not that animal is a cryptid or not, I will discuss later. But that being said, what is the story of the Loys ape? Francois de Loys was a Swiss oil geologist who led an oil survey expedition in Venezuela in 1920. De Loys and his men were searching for oil around the River Tara and Rio Catatumbo at the Venezuela-Colombia border. This area was heavily forested and at that time was inhabited by the Motilone natives. One day, while De Loys and his crew were resting near the Tara River, two monkeys suddenly stepped out of the woods screaming and shaking branches. They were holding onto bushes, walked upright, then broke off several branches, waving them like weapons. Eventually, the monkeys threw their own feces at the terrified De Loys and his companions. They grabbed their guns and fired at the more aggressive-looking male, but only killed the female. The male, though wounded, managed to escape into the forest. Since De Loys had never seen such large monkeys, he wanted to preserve the carcass. Unfortunately, over the next few months, encounters with the indigenous tribes resulted in the loss or abandonment of the body, and possibly that the skull was lost in a river when De Loys overturned his boat. The only thing surviving being the picture. Years later, his friend, French anthropologist Georges Montandon, flipped the pages of De Loys' notebook and discovered the photo. Although Montandon was familiar with most of the monkeys discovered to that date, he had never seen one like that in De Loys' picture. Now, before I continue, I think it's important to explain who Georges Montandon is. He was a Nazo sympathizer, a Yahtzee sympathizer, if you know what I'm saying. He was known for his very controversial theories on race and evolution. He believed that different races of humans evolved from different species of ape. For example, he believed that Africans evolved from gorillas and Asians evolved from orangutans, which, if you know anything about evolution, is completely wrong. Montandon was fascinated by the possibility of a great ape or even primitive human still surviving in South America. Because De Loys claimed it had no tail, was 4'5", and had 32 teeth, Montandon concluded that it was an anthropoid ape, or a human-like ape. He believed that it was the only ape native to the Americas and a missing link between apes and humans, specifically Native Americans, to prove his stupid racist theory. Now, I don't have much information on how these theories spread, but I do know that there was a news article titled "Missing Link Found Alive?" which shows that this did gain some popularity back then. How far this went, I'm not sure, but obviously I'm talking about it today, so it must have gone kinda far. Most zoologists who have reviewed the image and case of De Loys' ape have pointed out many similarities between the ape and a white-bellied spider monkey, including the light hair coloration on the front of the ape, nostrils pointing forward, and a large external clitoris, which I have used generative fill on Photoshop to take out of this image, so I did lie about this being an unaltered image, but it is really easy to find the original one, and I just didn't want to look at that while editing, so I hope you guys understand. But in conclusion, this is just a spider monkey. Nothing crazy, but an interesting story nonetheless. Now, going back to what I said earlier about cryptids influencing culture, this is a good example. It shows how people can use these elusive creatures to their own personal and political advantage. Now, before anyone gets all sappy, thinking that Montandan got away with this, I am happy to report that on August 30th, 1944, French resistance operatives in Nazi-occupied France ambushed Montandan outside his home and shot him. Alright, that is the end of the video. If you enjoyed, give me a like and subscribe. If you didn't enjoy, Joe Mama looks like a cryptid.